If I were to recommend a new player to learn a role, this is the order that I would recommend. Top being the best, mid second best, ADC third best, jungle being the fourth, and support being the worst role to start out with. And that's not to say that you can't learn or progress well with any of the roles, but I do think that top lane for sure is the best one to start out with. I'm going to start off with why you don't want to play the bottom two. Jungle isn't good because you don't learn wave management from the beginning, which is really, really important. You don't learn about trading, key aspects of the game that you need to know, because in order to be a good jungler, you need to be able to read the waves to know when to gank. I also found that having jungle being your secondary role is so much easier than having it as your primary. Support, you don't last hit. Similar to jungle, but even worse, you don't last hit. You're in a 2v2 lane with your teammate. Really not good to start out with. It's perfectly okay to learn support later, but again, I think it's the worst one to start out with as your first role. Top and mid lane are better than ADC for a similar reason to support of you're in a solo lane, it's entirely on you, you don't have another teammate that you have to worry about, you don't have to deal with 2v2 matchups, it's just strictly your individual matchup that you focus on. The reason that I say top lane is better than mid lane is, for one, top lane is a lot less popular than mid lane, so you get your role more consistently. You don't want to end up in the position where you're queuing up for mid and whatever secondary, but you end up getting that secondary a lot more often than if you were to go top mid. Also, wave management is much more punishing in top lane than in mid lane because the lane is longer. So if someone sets up a freeze on you, it's going to feel a lot worse than if it's on mid lane, especially because you can't roam in the same way that a mid laner can. Yes, there are opportunities to roam as the top laner. You can even go into the enemy jungle or fight in the river, but you don't have as many options as the mid laner would, because they have options to bot lane, top lane, Rift Herald, Dragon, whatever. Having these options as a mid laner to roam can allow you to get away with worse laning and worse wave management because you don't have to rely on it. Top laners have to know that their wave management's good, unless they're playing something like a Shen or a Quinn that can maybe get away with it. That being said, if you prefer to play ranged champions, then it probably would be better to start out as a mid laner, because you'll still get similar benefits to top lane, especially if you put a lot of focus on how you're using wave management. It's not that big of a deal. But if you just have no preference at all, I absolutely think top lane is the best role by far to start out with.